Good morning, race fans, and welcome at Cavalcade Racing Network for another Bonfire Racing League. Very impressive that we're here, and I will tell you, we have 3 broadcasters. Of course, I want to introduce you quickly to Peter. Welcome in the booth.
Good morning, Pim. We're here at virtual Texas Motor Speedway. I think this is going to be one of those perfect tracks for these drivers today. Really looking forward to the race.
Yeah, me too. And of course, we're not just with the 2 of us anymore. We do have an extra reporter, Jared, our expert. Welcome in the booth.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Missed last week because I was a little frustrated with the dirt race, but I'm ready to rock and roll again today.
Well, I'm not 100% sure if we're ready, but the drivers are ready. They're already on track over here, and we're going to have a quick look how they're going to do. Peter, how is it with our, before we start, who is the leader in this championship?
Well, this is race 15 of 27, but most importantly, there's just this race and 2 more before the field cuts down to 14 in the playoff hunt. David Medina continues to be in the lead. But as we go down and see who's on the bubble, who's in P14, it is our very own Cavalcade Racing Network's Chris Smorrell in P14. And so he's on the bubble, hanging on for today and the next 2 races to see if he can make it into the round of 14.
Well, interesting to see that. We do see Nick Mills currently in that lead position. He's going to take us for these 142 laps up here.
120 laps. Fuel will be limited. I think, Jared, we should expect at least 2 stops for fuel, if not more.
Yeah, that's completely true. I'm expecting around lap 40 is when we're going to pit. So I think all these drivers are going to worry about is getting through the start of this race, get single file, and just get into their groove.
Well, they have gotten off to a start, and Nick Mills has gotten the good jump from his pole position. He's ahead of Justin Malarkey. Actually, Eric Thornton has overtaken Justin Malarkey to take P2. Paul Furiani in P4, and Chris Smorrell has jumped up to P5.
So, Jared, what do you need to do here in Texas? What is the preferable things that you need to pay attention on?
Well, so turns 1 and 2 is a lot flatter than 3 and 4, so it's gonna be like Kentucky, but opposite. Turn 1 and 2 is gonna be flatter, so it's gonna be a little bit harder on the tires than, let's say, 3 and 4, where you could hold it a little bit more wide open or close to wide open. So they're gonna really be backing down on the throttle in 1 and 2, just to kind of save their tires.
Do you see? Cody Dorsey, is he on the outside over there?
The 84 car of Cody Dorsey is just on the high side. It looks like Dennis Puckett right behind him in the 12 car is taking a peek on the inside, but it's early in the race, and I think he's showing some good patience. And of course, right ahead of the 2 of them is David Buell and George Jewell, and looks like they're about to go 2 wide around turn 2. As Jared was saying, turns 1 and 2 are somewhat flat, but 3 and 4 are high banked. And we have our first yellow, and I'm just trying to see exactly what happened there. It does look like
I think that was Rob Chowdhury over there.
Yes, and David Medina, I think, has been caught up in that. We'll want to take a good look to see what our championship leader what happened there with David.
Yeah, that was a big wreck, starting off with the 13 of Steve Hoffman, just getting to the rear quarter panel of Rob Chowdhury in the 24 car, and that just sparked a big wreck going into turn 3 that caught up the 9 car, David Medina.
Yeah, it does look like David Medina was just the innocent bystander, nowhere to go there. It'll be interesting to see what kind of damage these cars have gotten, but at least Steve Hoffman and David Medina are in the pits, and so for sure they're going to lose some laps just from repairs.
Yeah, it looks like David Owens was collected in that wreck. Let's see who else was in there. Keith Fallen, one of the brand new guys to the league. Really looking forward to this race, but it looks like it's gonna come to a quick end, competitive-wise, to his first Bonfire race.
Now, one of the things I was about to say here is in the practice session, even though the turns 3 and 4 are high banked and they're really fast, I was noticing a lot of cars were struggling with a lot of looseness coming out of turn 4. You know, it's going to be very interesting, especially as the tires go out, just to see if that stays up. The drivers were really pushing through turns 3 and 4, but then losing the rear end as the track flattens out on the exit of turn 4.
Yeah, there's kind of on the bottom of turn 4, there's like a little bump on the exit of 4, kind of where pit road entry starts, and that can unbalance the car and really lift the rear end off the ground and get it loose. So I always try and stay a little bit above that so that I don't have to worry about it, but yeah, it's out there, and you just gotta kind of have to manage it.
So what do we expect here for yellows? Garrett, how many yellows do you expect here?
Well, I wasn't expecting that one off getting our points leader David Medina, but I'm gonna say maybe 4 cautions for today, so 3 more are to come.
Peter, do you agree with that?
Well, I'll take the under on that. You know, these 1.5 mile ovals are, generally speaking, the sweet spot for these Bonfire Racing League drivers. You know, we've seen more than a couple of races on these 1.5 mile ovals with green flag start to finish. Of course, that's not going to happen today. We have our first full course caution, but I'll go with 3 or less today.
Oh wow! So that means the over is for me. I'm curious if how that's gonna happen. But I'm very good to see that we have Thorsten back in the front again. He is really having a good season up here.
Yeah, I do also want to talk about someone that stands out is that 44 car of Paul Fernati in that 4th position. Really haven't seen him run up front, really, but he's up there, and he's still up there, so it's great to see that 44 car up front.
Yeah, Paul's been steadily improving, and, you know, Paul is another one that, you know, could have a chance to get into the round of 14. And so these, there are a bunch of drivers that are really on the bubble that need some good results. Jameson Miller, Chris Smorl, Kevin Bullock, Paul Ferdiani, Gary Wright, they're all in contention to make it into a group of 14 for the first round of playoffs. And so,
well, but we will see what happens over here, because we do have another restart. And it looks like Nick Mills is just practicing those restarts, because he's doing really well on it. Malarkey right behind him, and then Thorsten in that 3rd spot.
Yeah, great restart for at least the top 5 guys. David Buell and George Jewell finally settle out there for 6th and 7th. Battling side by side in turn 1, 2, but they've got single file now.
Indeed, it does appear that the drivers are maybe tiptoeing a little bit around while they're getting their tires up to temperature, going steadily in single file. It'll maybe be another lap or 2 before we see a little more battling on track.
Well, I do see for position number 7, George Jewell fighting quite a bit with David Buell on the moment. And also in the back, I see a new guy, Menzo. Have you seen that driver?
I have not. Brand new guy to the league. Got a good looking paint scheme, just running some laps.
Yeah, he's in the 932 car, and you know those cars with the 900 numbering, those designate drivers who have yet to complete their 3 races in this league in order to earn their permanent car numbers. And
I do think there's something wrong with him, because he is going a little bit slower, and I thought actually he was going into the pit. In the front, there's a bigger fight going on, especially for position number 2, Eric Thornton, Justin Malarkey, Chris Smorl, David Buell. All are there very, very close. Chris Small is currently on that outside line, trying to see if he can get anything to see from Justin Malarkey, but that's going to be difficult.
Well, we do know Chris Small does generally like trying to preserve momentum, stay a little bit wider and higher on these turns, and we're seeing that play here. We also know him as someone who is patient and really tries to look after his tires, and so it'll be interesting just again to see how tire wear factors into the strategy for the race.
Yeah, I was never really good at Texas with the whole tire saving. I'm not really good at tire saving, but yeah, this is one of those tracks that it's important to save those tires, especially when you go into 1 and 2, because it's just that flat banking really holds you up if your tires are worn down.
Looking back, there is a great battle for P10. Rusty Puntenberg is there, but right behind Thomas Pierce, Kevin Kyle are in that battle. David Brenner is moving up along with Buddy Sally. Rusty is holding that high line, but just trying to dive underneath is Thomas Pierce as the round turns 3 and 4. It does look like Thomas is going to get a little bit of leverage and make it around as they exit turn 4.
Yeah, that was a great pass by Thomas.
Well, and then, a little further back, David Brenner, we always love just seeing, he's just a driver that is not afraid to rub doors with other drivers, and he's right there now, right next to Buddy Sally, and right behind them, another new driver to the league, Keith Fallon. Again, this is just all battling for, these 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th spots here on track.
Yeah, a little bit up ahead, Dennis Puckett in that 10th position getting passed by Thomas Pierce. Seems like Thomas came to Texas with a lot of momentum, wanting to get a good amount of points. I don't really know if he's in contention to get into the playoffs, joining real late, but he's running like he's going to get in there, which is great to see.
Yeah, battle in the back with David Brenner, and Keith Phelan has now really heated up, and it's Keith Phelan who takes that 14th position, and I do see David Brenner running a complete different line there on the outside. Is there a tactic, Jared, for that?
I don't think so. I think he's just getting really tight, 1 and 2. Like I said, you get out of that groove and you just really struggle on corner exit. So I think he's just trying to do damage control and make sure everything he can get to the first round of pit stops and with the positions he's got.
Well, do have a look, guys, on Keith Phelan, because he's really going up forward. Kevin Kyle's now also being passed. The 934.
Yeah, Keith is moving up the field. He's catching right up now to who's that? The 12 car, the 21 car of Buddy Sally, and I think that he's just going underneath Buddy as they round turn 2, and he's sticking right up there with Rusty Pontenberg. I wanted to ask you, Jared, for a driver like David Brenner, who we know really likes to kind of try to move up the field, but he's in 11th spot in the season, and he just needs a reasonable finish to the race in order to kind of assure himself a spot in the round of 14. And so do you think that changes the thought process and how much you're willing to battle out on track in a race like this?
I don't think for Brenner, no. Brenner's always very competitive. He's always trying to get the best finish possible. So usually in the driver's head during the race, we're not thinking about the points. We're not worried about the points. We'll be worried about the points after the race and throughout the week. But yeah, not during the race. We won't be worried about that. We're just trying to get to the end of the race with the highest position possible and hope that the points we get in that race helps us get into the playoffs.
Well, we're having fun watching Keith Fallon and Rusty Pontenberg. Look like they did rub doors for a little bit there, but Keith now has taken firm control of the P11 position, and Rusty and Pottenberg and Buddy Sally now are side by side. And so it's been a busy race for Rusty Pottenberg so far. Racing there in P12 or P13 now.
A little bit up front, the number 5 car, Chris Morrill, up to 3rd place now, kind of closing the gap between the 73 car of Justin Malarkey. We got a top 6 pack running a couple car lengths away from each other in that little draft pack that we've got. So all these guys are still in contention to try and get up and maybe pass the 88 car of Nick Mills. But I think most of them are kind of okay just running single file like this.
It is still very early in the race. Everyone's got to pit for fuel at some point. It's probably a good idea to be patient at a track like this.
Yeah, I'm just watching Chris's line. Everyone kind of dives down to the bottom of the track a little bit earlier, and he kind of just waits. It seems like he's a little bit hesitant, but he gets a great run as he goes onto the inside of Justin Malarkey on the backstretch and get in position going into turn 3.
Well, it does appear that Chris just gets some great momentum coming out of these two ends of the oval by taking that kind of more patient higher line, and he is closing the gap now pretty quickly up to the race leader, Nick Mills.
Yeah, I think it's exactly how you described him. He's patient. It seems like he knows when he needs to pass. He'll get a little bit speed just to get up to your rear bumper, and then once he's there, he knows when to go. So, great driver skill in that number 5 car. He's just a great driver overall.
Yeah, he was one of the drivers. I was sitting in his cockpit for a few laps during the practice session, the warm-up session before the race start, and he was definitely experiencing quite a bit of looseness coming out of turn 4, and so it doesn't look like that's happening right now with the tires still a little bit fresh, but for all these drivers, we're going to want to keep a close eye on. Oh, and he's diving underneath Nick Mills and taking the race lead as they come out of turn 4. And so Chris was definitely one of the drivers pushing it very, very hard on the exit of turn 4.
Yeah, and Peter, while you say that, also Eric Thornton in the back immediately took that position over from Justin Malarkey. Curious to see what that's going to mean for this race. Is it going to be Chris Hall and Nick Mills who are trying to get away now, or is Eric Thornton gonna jump in there? It's David Buell and George Jewell who are holding on to this pack, and that makes our first 6. And then we see in the back Paul Verdiani a little bit further back, but then don't look now, but on 8th position, 14 positions up from where he started, it's Thomas Pierce. He is really moving forward, guys.
Yeah, I think he kind of wants the bragging rights of being the hard charger for today. Get a little bit extra special recognition.
And then right behind Thomas Pierce, Keith Fallon continues to move up. He's up 8 spots in the 934 car. He just got past Cody Dorsey, and you know, they're on the move, both Thomas Pierce and Keith Fallon. Just a quick update on Steve Hoffman and David Medina. They are still in the pits, and so it's unclear if they'll rejoin the race, but at a minimum they are really losing all sorts of time. They're now 23 laps down on their repairs.
Yeah, I do think that David Medina can have that a little bit in the championship, has a strong lead up there. I'm a little bit worried about Steve Hoffman for the playoffs, because this will cost him valuable points. We do see on the moment that Chris Hall is really taking a lead from Nick Mills, is trying to see if he can get away. The distance is getting a little bit further. Eric Thornton is holding on together with David Buell. It's Justin Malarkey and George Jewell who are really dropping off that first part of the race.
Well, the battle for P8, Thomas Pierce, our 2 hard chargers, and Keith Fallon, they are now side by side, but Keith is making the pass around the high side of Thomas Pierce as they exit turn 2. It's a drag race down the back straight, and it does look like Keith will have some leverage here, and indeed enters turns 3 and 4 ahead and in 8th place, now up 9 spots from where he started.
Well, now watch the 21 car of Buddy Sally with Thomas being on that bottom lane. It really slowed his momentum in 3 and 4. Buddy's going to see if he can try and get a run here on the top lane.
I think there's an issue with Dennis Puckett. I'm not too sure what's happened there. Is he the first taker for a pit stop? It looked like it might be.
I couldn't see him on the screen anymore, so I'm not sure if he's still alive. Keep giving us feedback on that one.
Yeah, I'm just seeing, it does look like he got loose coming out of turn 4. In fact, it's just what we were talking about, and hit the outside wall on the front straight, and is in the midst of being towed back to the pits.
Probably got some real bad suspension damage.
Really unfortunate for Dennis, and boy, you know, now we're 32 laps in on the set of tires. Everyone's still on their first stints here. It's just going to be something we're going to keep a close eye on that exit of turn 4.
Yeah, battle with Keith Palin and Paul Verdiani is also not over yet. Keith has taken on that inside line. He is really working his way up. He's currently 10 positions up already on that 7th position. But now there's a big gap. He needs to see if he can catch up with George Jewell and Justin Malarkey, who are right up front in there.
So Jared, you know, we're now 34 laps into this race. At what point will these drivers contemplate making a pit stop under green?
Well, there's 120 laps in the race, so if they wanted to split it equally, 40 laps all the way around on fuel, I think they could do that. So I'm gonna say maybe we'll start seeing them go around lap 40 or maybe 39, and then maybe up to 48. Lap 48 is when pit stops will probably end.
Oh, we do have a full course caution, and it looks like, let's see, not too sure. Rusty Pontenberg has been involved in a wreck, and let's see if we can get a look, Pim, at what happened there.
Yeah, I am really curious. I'm just seeing Rusty Pontenberg driving backwards, so curious to see what exactly happened.
Oh, it looks like Rusty Pontenberg and Thomas Fox got into each other coming out of turn 4. I think Rusty just was squeezed low a little bit and could not hold the line, and that caused Rusty to come into the wall. I think Thomas Fox, his car might be okay, but that will bring out the full course caution.
Well, I think a lot of people would love to have a pit strategy like that one. That was a nice move from him. Rusty Pontenberg could hold that car. I'm not sure. I don't think there's too much damage on Rusty Pontenberg's car. Could hold it into that wall.
Yeah, indeed. And so I am guessing we're going to see just about everybody coming to the pits for tires and fuel, and indeed it is rush hour down the pit lane.
Nick Mills is right on the rear bumper of that 5 car going down pit road. Gonna see if he can get an advantage on his pit stop. I think Nick Mills will do it with that first pit stall. And it looks like the 73 overshot the pit box as well.
Yeah, that's always a killer when that happens.
Well, we can see it over here. We do see that Chris Morrill has a lot of better pit stop, but it's Chris Morrill that does make it. Look at that. Very, very, very close for that first spot, but it is Chris Morrill who takes the lead.
Let's
Nick
see
Mills.
if Chris is willing to talk to us a little bit here in the broadcast booth. I'll pull him in. Chris, this is Peter Lee along with Jared Kelly and Pim Luth in the broadcast booth. Do you have a few seconds to chat with us?
For you guys, absolutely.
So Chris, we've been noticing you've been getting lots of great momentum coming out of turn 2 and out of turn 4. Tell us, how's your race going, and what's been your strategy so far?
Yeah, just babying the tires, as you guys can tell. That's going to be key, keeping the heat out of them as much as possible. So being nice and smooth and all that. David Medina helped me out a ton this morning, understanding how the car operates, especially as the weight of the fuel goes down. And I've been just trying to put that into practice. It's always tough in the race situation, though. You got cars ahead of you. You always want to go fast, but patience is going to be the key here today. It gets wrecking loose off of 2 and some, a little bit off of 4 as well. But tight on entry, loose on exit, and I'm just happy. I mean, awesome that we got such a long green flag run in there, almost to our fuel window.
Right. Well, it'll be super interesting just to see how the refueling goes, and we're all have different ideas about how many full course cautions, and so I hope you guys keep it clean. Hint, hint.
Yeah, we'll do our best. I imagine as the race goes on, it's going to get more and more difficult. But yeah, great group of guys to be racing with today, and hopefully we can put on a show for everybody at home.
All right, great. Well, good luck. We'll send you back out on the track.
Thanks, Peter.
Well, Chris, I hope he's gone. I hope there's going to be more crashes from my over. But there was something happening when we had a fight going on, when we had the talk going on. Nick Mills really had trouble with his, with his equipment, because he had to go all the way to the back. Was running very, very slowly, and now is on the 19th position. And he's doing that again. I'm not 100% sure what is going wrong with his car. I also see Eric Thornston all the way on the back over there. 20th position. Look at that.
Yeah, it could have been that we had some pit road speeding penalties dished out. I don't know if it was on entry for Nick Mills or exit when he was trying to beat Chris Morrill, but I think that could have been the issue. Well, I think from the status of how he is as a driver, I think it won't be that hard for him at all. I think it'll be interesting to see him try and pick his way through traffic and try and get back up to the front. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a struggle to get up to the front, but I think he'll be back up there before the race is over.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jared. We see this all the time. Nick is a very strategic driver, and he's always able, it seems like, to work his way up the field if he's given enough laps. Just looking at this grid, with those two, Nick and Eric, having dropped off here, we now see Keith Fallon, the 934 car, in 4th place, and so he's right behind race leader Chris Morrill, Justin Larkin, David Buell, and then Paul Ferdiani up to P5, and so we're going to want to keep a close eye, and it's hard not to pull for those guys to get a great result here.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice first race if you are in the top 5, but could they win this race? We do, of course, have still Chris Morrill on that lead position. He's going to bring us into the next green section, I hope. Justin Malarkey right behind him. And he goes just on the end of there, and it's Justin Malarkey on 2nd position. Keith holds that 3rd line, and then it's David Buell, who now tries to see if he can get that 3rd spot up. George Jewell, Paul Ferdiani, Code Dorsey, and Thomas Pierce are on that right behind them.
Oh, and Keith gets up into the wall just a little bit. Got really tight on the exit of 2 and just slid up into the outside wall.
Yeah, he did well to hang on to it. That very well could have ended in tears. Oh, he's going to rub the wall again. He is driving hard here on this restart and holding it together, but just barely.
Yeah, it's going to be scary for the other drivers racing around him, trying to get by him.
Meanwhile, through all of that, David Buell has captured the 2nd spot behind Chris Morrill, and then we have Keith Fallon, followed by George Jewell, Thomas Pierce, now just past Justin Malarkey, and then Cody Dorsey.
Yeah, and have a quick look for Nick Mills, currently 13th position. He's going to drive up to the field. He's already doing that really fast. It's now David Owens right in front of him, David Brenner and Kevin Kyle. But there is going to be a nice battle going on. In the front, we see Cody Dorsey moving up to 6th position. Justin Olaki goes back to the 7th. And then Buddy Sally right behind there. Look at that battle for position number 11, David Owens and David Brenner.
Wow, and again, those now, we know both of those drivers are completely unafraid to go side by side. That'll be a fun battle to watch. I'll bet that'll go for quite a few laps here. Nick Mills is going to get into that mix too. And then, you know, as we see David Owens, he's catching up to Kevin Kyle. He's going to dive underneath Kevin. Kevin's going to get some good momentum coming out of the high side of turn 4. And is going to hang on to P10, but that's going to go for a while as well.
I don't know what happened to Chris, but he's now in the 3rd position. David Buell now leading this race with Keith falling right behind him. I don't know if Chris kind of slid up into the wall and just lost his momentum, or if Buell and Keith just turned on the rocket boosters on their car.
Yeah, I'm looking back, and it does look like Chris got just a little loose coming out of turn 4 and had to back off a little bit. He did hold it together, but that did allow those two cars to get around him. So he's now behind David Buell and Keith Fallon.
Look at that, Thomas Pierce. He couldn't finish a race for a while, and now he's suddenly up there on that 4th position. And he's actually going to the 3rd spot. Look at that. He's on the podium right now. Chris Morrill drops to 4th position.
Yeah, it's great seeing all these new guys run up through the field. I think now they racing with these guys are not afraid. They're now part of the group, and they're ready to show what they've got.
Well, I'm curious. Oh, we see this 07. What's happened to the 07? It's George Jewell over there. Has a problem with getting into the pit stop.
And what is the story there?
Well, the story is that he was getting, I think, out of 4 and just goes into the inside line. I'm not sure exactly if that was really intended, but he couldn't hold that car anymore and goes fully off, has to go back in. Yeah, he's going to lose a couple of laps. He's now still in the pit. I don't think we're going to see him back anymore. But that does mean we have David Buell on that front. Keith Fallon, 15 positions up, is currently on that 2nd position. Guys, that guy is making a lot of moves.
Yeah, but I think, kind of like with Chris's point, this isn't checkers, this is chess. You got to be patient, got to save your tires for that 2nd fuel run, or you're just going to go straight to the back. So it's going to take a lot of driver discipline to see if you can save these tires on this long green flag run.
Had a great battle. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Eric Thornton and David Brenner, I believe, got into each other, and boy, I'm not sure exactly. That will bring out a full course caution.
Now look at this. This David Brenner's car is completely undrivable, and is now just hitting the walls.
Yeah, and again, it just looks like in turn 4, Eric Thornton was on the low side, David Brenner high side, and again, it's just a little hard to know exactly what happens there, but they got each other. Almost an identical incident to the last full course caution, but this time involving the number 1 car and the number 22 car. And boy, I think that's probably going to be the race for David Brenner.
Yeah, I think there were some slow cars in there, if I can look at now, and then yeah, there's a lot of things happening, and it's not ending well for David Brenner. He has to park his car into the pit lane.
Yeah, he had heavy front suspension damage. I could see that front left tire just cambered out almost all the way and just locked up. So he had no drivability in that car anymore. So Yeah, it's
No.
a shame. He had a really strong run going for him.
And how
did.
is Eric Thornton? Is his car okay? Since Eric is coming into the pits now, he probably has some repairs that he'll need, but very, very unclear if just sitting in his cockpit, his steering looks pretty straight, so he might be okay, but he's just going to come in, I think, for a little bit of fender straightening.
Yeah, we see the 44 also going into the pit, so Eric seems to be okay.
Indeed he does.
But he does take a little bit of time to actually get some repairs going on.
Yeah. So one thing we're starting to see here, Pim and Jared, is side by side coming out of turn 4. It does not look like a good idea for these drivers. We're just seeing the two cars, if they're side by side coming out of turn 4, they just run out of room, and then something bad happens.
Yeah, I with the corners of this racetrack, it really like widens up the track in the corners, and then you go straight towards the tri-oval, and it's like a funnel. It gets you guys real close together, and you're also turning in that tri-oval more than you would expect. So all it takes is one driver to just be off on that steering just a little bit, and that's when everything lets go and wrecks start happening.
Look at that, I see George Jewell going in another time, so that's not going to look very good for him. But look at this front, David BRL in the lead. Okay, you expect that, but then Keith Falling, Thomas Pierce, Cody Dorsey is back over there, Justin Malarkey of course, and Chris Small. If you would have to pick someone, Jarrett and Peter, who would you pick for this win race?
I'm going to pick that 52 car of David Buell. I think he can try and hold off the hard-charging Chris Morrill and patient Chris Morrill at that. And I can see the skill level developing within that 52 car. So,
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I go with the 52 car too as a good pick, but boy, it would be just fantastic to see a newcomer like Keith Fallon or Thomas Pierce, who we haven't seen up front as much as some of these other drivers. It'd be fantastic to see one of those.
It would be fantastic, but I do have to say, Chris Small, we haven't seen him in the front for a long time as well. So all of those drivers, but my money will go on the 934, the Keith Phelan. I really think that he's gonna do something amazing.
Well, it looks like we're getting another lap here at least before a restart. And so I was tempted to pull David Buell into the broadcast booth, but I thought we would get a restart by this lap. It's probably too late now, but it'll be interesting to hear exactly maybe if there's another full course caution, how things are going there for David. And then of course, Keith Fallon has been in the Discord with the Folcom drivers, which includes Chris Morrill, Dave Medina, and Keith Fallon, and Justin Malarkey. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to those drivers at some point in this race or after the race.
it's going to be interesting to see if this 5 car maybe tries to push the newcomer, Keith. See if he can get him up front, and maybe Keith will even lead a lap. That would be huge confidence-wise for your first Bonfire race, just to lead a lap in front of the field.
Oh, for sure. We would expect a restart on this go-around. We'll see. Yep, in fact, the pace car dives into the pit lane. Yeah, it's up to David Buell to get us restarted.
Green flag.
David being able to start in that restart box gets a great jump on the start. Keith takes over that second position as they try and go after it in 1 and 2.
Looking clean. Chris Morrill stays in 4th. Justin Malarkey in 5th, but Justin is under a little bit of pressure from Nick Mills, who's up to 6th, and then Cody Dorsey right behind. Looking at that battle for P5, currently Justin Malarkey's there, but Nick Mills is really just closing in very fast, and you can tell Nick really would like to get around. He's going to try to go underneath here, down the back straight. And now here we see side by side coming around turns 3 and 4, and let's hope they get through.
Well, Peter, we don't
here.
see that much. I have some difficulties with the screen a little bit.
It does look like Nick Mills has gotten past Justin Malarkey and now is starting to put some pressure on Chris Morrill. Meanwhile, up front, Thomas Pierce has gone below Keith Fallon and has captured P2. And so all of this is helping David Buell stretch out his lead a little bit. Nick Mills now has gotten past Chris Morrill out of turn 4. And so our running order right now at the top is David Buell, Thomas Pierce, Keith Fallon, Nick Mills, Chris Morrill. That is your top 5.
Well, keep us updated because we are looking to see if we can get a little bit of better parts up here.
Absolutely. And so our field has now managed to sort itself out in single file. Just to recap again, David Buell has a pretty comfortable lead now on Thomas Pierce and Keith Fallon. They're battling for P2. And then we have the duo of Nick Mills and Chris Morrill battling for P3. A little bit further back, just keeping an eye on Eric Thornton. Eric Thornton is putting a lot of pressure on both Kevin Kyle and Paul Ferdiani. He's making it 3 wide as they come down the back straight. And I'm a little concerned what's going to happen here as they enter P3. It does look like the 31 car of Kevin Kyle is going to back out. That's probably a wise thing. And Eric Thornton is easily then going to get around Paul Ferdiani in order to capture P10. So Eric Thornton is definitely trying to work his way back up to the front and is making some pretty aggressive moves along the way.
Yeah, with those aggressive moves is also heating up those tires, so you gotta be mindful of that. You're seeing them go through the field like this, but it's only gonna make those tires hurt a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's the chess match, I think, that you're talking. Oh, and we do see someone has gone into the grass, I think.
Kyle Lennon, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. But he's held it together. That has dropped him down to 14th or 15th position, but no worse for wear otherwise.
Well, guys, I can't get the stream back in running, so we're only listening to you guys. So please tell us everything about it. Don't know what it is.
The internet gods are kind of giving us a problem, but let's zoom back here, Jared, back to Eric Thornton. He continues to work his way out, gotten past Cody Dorsey to capture P8, and he is now looking up to P7 and David Owens and closing up fast as they come around turn 4. And in fact, I think Eric is going to come up, and they're both, David Owens and Eric Thornton, are going to get past Nick Mills. Nick is dropping down, and that's going to get Eric up to P7 with Nick Mills now in 8th place. I'm not sure if Nick is having an issue with tires or other damage to his car, but he is dropping off Owens in his sight. But that is now for P6.
Yeah, still up front, it's David Buell, Pierce, and Keith Fallon running that podium's position. Great to see these drivers still being able to hold that top 3 position with Chris Morrill just kind of easing back there, sneaking up on him.
Yeah, if anything, they're running just serenely, very calmly. You get a sense, don't you, Jared, that they're probably babying their tires even up there?
Yeah, well, I think also all the guys on FOCM and is kind of coaching Keith Fallen on how to keep those tires safe and everything. Because I mean, David Medina wrecked out earlier in this race. He's running laps down, so there's only 2 guys kind of carrying the FOCM banner, and that's Keith Fallon and Chris Smorrell.
A quick update, Eric Thornton did get past David Owens, and so Eric is now running in 6th, and now is looking ahead up to Justin Malarkey for that P5 position.
Still back up front. Chris is starting to try and make his pass on his teammate Keith. He's getting huge runs coming out of the corner. I think the tires are kind of falling away for the 2nd and 3rd place cars, and Chris is ready to make his move to try and get the lead back from David Buell.
Yeah, David is now about a second and a half ahead of the rest of the field now, and so he's just holding up, driving some basically 30.5 second laps, doing really well there. Meanwhile, Chris Small and Keith Fallon are side by side down that back straight. You can be sure they're going to be careful with each other. There's probably a lot of coordination going on. Chris is getting a great run out of turn 4 and is looking around on the outside of Thomas Pierce as he come down the front straight.
Yeah, with all this side-by-side racing, oh my gosh, 2nd through 7th all under a blanket, or 6th all under a blanket basically.
Oh, Keith Fallon did get extremely loose coming out of turn 4, but held it together. But it did cause him to fall down to 6th place. But very, very good driving on his part to not lose the rear end completely in spin.
Yeah, that's just extending the gap for David Buell with all the side-by-side racing happening behind him. This is just making a blanket, but he's got to maintain that time gap if he's going to be able to win this race. We still have 1 pit stop remaining for these guys to make it to the end on fuel.
An update, Eric Thorne is up to P4, but he's on the outside of Thomas Pierce. He's just looking and looking for an opportunity to get past Thomas Pierce, and he's trying to do it on the high side. Thomas is just not going to give him too much room up there. And it is, Jared. It's going to be so interesting to see with this sort of aggressive driving if Eric's tires are just going to give out at some point. We are on lap 69, and just looking, it's been, this is a pretty long stint on those tires for all these drivers, including Eric. But Eric has just gone below and captured 3rd place, having passed Thomas Pierce, and now he's looking ahead to P2 and Chris Smorrell.
Yeah, now that Chris and Eric have cleared the 2 guys that were behind David, the time gap is now just dropping immensely. The gap was almost 2.5 seconds. Now it's down to 1.5 seconds. So I think Chris and Eric just saved their tires a little bit more, and they're able to catch this 52 car. It's going to be interesting to see if they can catch them before pit stops happen, because if they don't pass them before pit stops happen, that's going to be huge for the 52 car.
We just missed there. Thomas Pierce coming out of turn 2 got extremely loose, has lost another position now to Justin Malarkey, but is still hanging on to P5. But he does have Nick Mills, Keith Fallon, and David Owens now putting extreme pressure on him. So it does look, to my eye, Jared, like some of these drivers are starting to struggle a bit with their tires.
Yeah, well, the drivers that are struggling with their tires are kind of just slowing up everyone else in the pack. Like Nick Mills having to just dive down to the bottom behind Thomas Pierce. Had to back out of the throttle.
Yeah, boy, I thought that was
going 3 wide in turns 3 with David Owens. That was almost close.
Yeah, I thought something was going to end in tears there. But they all managed to go through without causing a big incident.
Gap now between Chris Smorrell and David Buell is now 1 second and 2, or 1 second and 1/10. It's just dropping rapidly as we're maybe close to I think 8 laps till the fuel window opens to make it on fuel. So it seems like Chris is gaining almost 2/10 a lap on the race leader.
Yeah, and Eric Thornton is right up there, keeping up with Chris Morrill. In fact, if anything, is closing up and maybe just content a little bit finally to baby his tires a little bit and stay just up there with Chris. But the two of them are definitely closing the gap to David Buell.
The 88 car of Nick Mills got loose out of 2, trying to get past the 46 of Thomas Pierce. There's just a blanket between Nick Mills all the way back to, I think that's the 9 car, the lap car of David Medina, still wanting to act like he's still in contention for the race, maybe get up to the front and help his teammate out.
Yeah, that is a great group there for P5. Nick Mills, Thomas Pierce, Keith Fallon, David Owens, David Medina in the mix there, as you were saying, trying to work his way up to that lead pack.
I'm watching David Buell, and he's getting real tight in the corners. That's just making him lose so much time. Gap's now down to 4/10. He's off the gas so much longer than Chris Morrill. Those tires are gone for him. He pushed them a little too hard, and Chris was babying his, so Chris has got the tire advantage going into turn 3 and 4. I'd say Chris gets the run maybe in 1 and 2 in the next lap.
Guys, for your information, we do have some visuals, but it's horrible to watch at. I'm just going to see if we can do anything better, but you guys do an awesome job by reporting, and I do see Small going in again.
Yeah, we're Jared and I are happy to continue broadcasting on the Cavalcade Radio Network. And so both Chris and Eric Thornton now, just Jared, you called it exactly right. They easily got their runs on David Buell, and out of turns 1 and 2 managed to make the pass on the low side. And now we have our running order of the top 5 being Chris Morrill, Eric Thornton, David Buell, Justin Malarkey. Now that's a lead pack of 4, and then further back is Nick Mills.
It's going to be interesting to see what that, after position number 5 with Nick Mills and that little pack that's going on there, how they all settle each other out. I do want to mention David Owens was in that first wreck with David Medina, kind of giving David a little bit more damage than he wanted to in that wreck. But it looks like he's back up in 7th position, and he's just trailing Keith Fallon, trying to get up to Nick Mills. Still in contention for this race. He's going to try and make his playoff run in his first full-time Bonfire season. So at this point, all the points you can get matter.
Absolutely. Just to remind folks, you know, the top 14 drivers at the end of the, the 17th race of the season will advance into the playoffs. Their points will be reset so that every one of those 14 drivers, top 14 drivers, will have the same number of points for the first round of the playoffs. And so it's super important for some of these drivers, especially the ones that are on the bubble, to try to make it there. Well, we are at lap 80, Jared. In fact, lap 81. And so I would guess that the final refueling window is open. So now there's the strategic question of when and whether these front runners will decide to come in under green for fuel and tires.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see. It's kind of now a waiting game to see who's going to be the first one to go down on pit road, because then you can kind of adjust your strategy on that. Try and maybe pull the overcut and try and get ahead of him after they pit. Or maybe for some of these guys, maybe in like David Owens, Buddy Sally, you can try and pull the undercut. But it's all based on that fuel window. So they still may have some fuel in their tank. Their tires may be terrible, but they're going to try and stretch out their fuel, try and get as many laps and as many positions as they can.
Now, Chris Morrill and Eric Thornton are in the lead here. To my eye, Eric looks like the faster car here, but I think he's just patient here to stay behind. Oh, now that I say that, it looks like Eric is going to go ahead and make a pass on the low side coming out of turn 2. And it doesn't look like Chris will try too hard to contest that. And so they've just swapped positions there with now Eric Thornton in the lead. He's worked his way all the way. Really impressive. And now Chris Morrill followed by Justin Malarkey, and that's your top 3.
David Beal is also in the pits. Finally pitting for those fresh set of tires. He's going to try and pull the undercut to even get back out on front.
Yeah, Keith Fallon also in the pit lane. George Jewell. So we are starting to see some green flag pit stops here. I suspect we're going to see a lot more. And it's just now, when are these leaders going to do that? And how are they thinking about this strategically? Jared, if you're in this situation, like if you are Eric Thornton right now, what is your thought process for a pit stop?
Well, you're going to want to see what the tire or the time gap between new tires and old tires is once these guys come back out on track and they run a couple laps. Kind of see what that tire fall off time is and kind of adjust your strategy to that. It's all going to be dependent on how much time you lose on pit road, and if you're able to get that gap back, get those positions back after you pit, without pushing your tires too hard while trying to get those positions. Or maybe just hope that a caution comes out right now and you get a free pit stop without losing any positions.
Right. A little further back, the battle for P7, Cody Dorsey is there, but Thomas Pierce, Paul Ferdiani, and of course David Medina is in the mix there. But that is a pitched battle there, and that's another one where you wonder if someone like Cody might decide to go into the pits a little bit earlier than Thomas Pierce, who's putting a lot of pressure on him.
Kyle Linnet's now going down pit road. He was running in that 14th position. Now he's going to take his new set of tires and some fuel.
We're completing 87 laps here in this 120 lap race, so about 33 laps to go. Definitely comfortably within the final refueling window.
I believe Kevin Kyle's going to be going into that pit sometime soon. He announced it on the radio. So, really glad I'm able to have the driver's radios go through my ears, because then I get to know when they're about to go down pit road. David Medina now going down, planning to go down pit road. So pit road is going to start getting busy now as we get to around 30 laps to go here. It's going to be real interesting to see if David Buell can kind of get ahead of these guys up here in the front and hold them off. He was able to hold them off there in the first, I think, 25 laps. So we'll see if he can do it here, and I highly expect if he's leading this race, then those leaders are catching up to him in the closing laps. He's going to be blocking them. He ain't going to let them by. It's either he wins the race or they're going to have to wreck him.
Well, these top 3, Eric Thornton, Chris Morrill, Justin Malarkey, now have really closed up to each other. And Eric was very, very loose coming out of turn 2. Held it together. I think Chris Morrill and Justin Malarkey, I think both probably lifted just in the interest of safety. But it does look like Chris Morrill is planning to come into the pits now, and indeed, he is in the pit lane. So of that lead pack of 3, he's the first taker for his final, presumably, assuming that the race goes all green from here on out, the final pit stop.
Yeah, I was looking at the time gaps between new tires and old tires, and it's basically a second from what the leaders were running. David Buell ran around a 30.6, and the last lap for Chris Morrill, when he was running at full pace, he was at a 31.6. So there's a full second on new tires. So it's gonna be interesting to see how long this one car stays out.
Yep, Chris Morrill completed his pit stop, is now re-entering the racetrack. It was a clean pit stop as far as I could tell. Now it is just the wait for Eric Thornton and Justin Malarkey. David Buell is now up to third spot. Chris Smorl is coming out behind David Buell and Keith Fallon. And so it does appear that that earlier pit stop did help David Buell at least regain his lead over Keith and Chris Smorl. But the big question is about Eric Thornton and Justin Malarkey.
Yeah, well, they're gonna have to gain almost 7 seconds to catch up to David Buell, and I'm looking at those, how many laps we have left, and they are dropping rapidly.
Yeah,
Eric Thornton down the pit.
Yeah.
So
that's certainly going to put David Buell back in the lead of this race with Keith Fallon in P2.
See, now David's got the advantage. He can kind of save these tires because he knows that the people behind him have to catch him to try and win this race. So they're going to be using their tires a lot more than the 52 car. So if David just kind of uses his tires smartly, kind of trying to save them, he can have tires left for when these leaders, or these like Chris Morrow and Eric Thornton, try and catch up to him. He'll have some tires to maybe battle back with.
It's really remarkable, Jared. I always find this kind of amazing how when you decide to pit under green makes such a huge difference. Because Dave Buell really now has a good 2-second lead over Keith Fallon, and then there's another 5-second gap back to Chris Morrill in P3. And so just deciding when to pit under green just made a huge shakeup in the gaps between these drivers.
Yeah, it's especially important when the green flags, or when the stops happen under green. That really makes the difference. But I mean, it's just kind of that gamble. If you pit earlier, you're going to get ahead of them, but they're going to have fresher tires and they're going to catch up to you eventually, depending on what lap you pit. So it's going to be real interesting to see if David Buell can hold on to this. And it's going to, I mean, Keith Fallon and Chris Moore are in the same Discord chat, so who knows what game they're going to be playing, how to catch up to this 52 car.
Looking at P5, Eric Thornton being followed by Buddy Sally, but they have the lap car, David Brenner. And Eric's been having trouble getting past David Brenner. That's no surprise. David is really fast and is not an easy guy to pass, but Eric finally did get past him. So now that puts David Brenner in between Eric Thornton and Buddy Sally. But Eric is right now in P5, and he's just trying to find a way to work his way back up to these leaders. But those leaders, Dave Buell, Keith Fallon, Chris Smorl, Justin Malarkey, they have quite a lead, and they are all separated by multiple seconds from each other.
Yeah, I'm looking at the times now for the front runners. The top three, Chris Morrow on his brand new tires, running 5/10 faster than David Buell. So there is that tire gap as we're getting close to 20 laps here to go. I think we're sitting around 23, coming to 22 this time by. So gaining 5/10 a lap is a lot of time gain for this number 5 car. But I mean, catching up to him is one thing, passing's another. So he's got 2 cars that he's going to need to pass to get this win. So
right. And so, in fact, I think the same thing probably goes for Justin Malarkey, and Justin also looks like he's closing up. Justin's behind Chris by about 2.5 seconds, but both Chris and Justin seem to be closing up the gap up to both Keith Fallon and David Buell. Looking, I'm sorry, but just looking a little bit back at the battle for P10, Kevin Kyle is there, but Kyle Lynott was just closing up the gap. It looked like he had to back off a little bit there, and so that's going to give Kevin a little bit of breathing room. But that battle for P10 has just up until now been looking pretty heated. although Kyle now has really backed off a bit.
Gap's now 3.5 seconds between Chris Morrill and David Buell. The gap's kind of closing up between these top 3 drivers as we come to 20 laps to go here. David wants this race to end right now, and Chris wants it to go a little bit longer. So it's gonna, with the playoffs closing up, getting wins, getting points, just calling yourself a Bonfire Premier Cup winner is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris is flying there. He is closing up. He has now his teammate Keith Fallon well within his sights. And boy, I agree. It would be really interesting to know what kind of coordination those two teammates are having in this kind of situation.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see with Keith being new and running second. I don't know if he's going to let his teammate by, who needs the points for the playoffs, try and close up that gap, or if he's going to be kind of selfish and say, no, I want second for myself, and it looks like he's going to let him by. So
yeah, Keith definitely facilitated that pass and is probably going to try to get a tow from Chris. But now Chris is less than 1 second from race leader David Buell, and so this is about to turn into a 3-car battle for the race win with just 17 laps to go.
yeah, there is a lap car in front of the 932 of, I believe it's Phil Hitman Manzo. So he's going to try and... Oh, and David gets loose.
Oh boy,
Big
I thought
shocker.
that was about to take out both of those cars, Chris Morrill and David Buell, but they somehow avoided contact. Keith Fallon did back off the throttle quite a bit, so that's allowed David Buell to hold on to his P2 position, and Justin Larkey now is starting to catch back up there, but that has just given Chris Morrill a big lead of almost 2 full seconds now, clear of David Buell.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to send a message, a radio message to Chris Morrill to say, hey, slow up a bit. I want this to be a good battle for the win. Because I was really expecting it to heat up right there. I wasn't expecting the 52 car to get loose like that. So that's a huge disappointment to get loose on the closing laps, especially when you're leading the race. But it sounds like the 52 car's tires are kind of on the exit. They're just slowing down with 15 laps to go, so he's just going to try and limp this thing to see if he can get a top 5 finish and maybe a top 3 finish.
Yeah, in fact, Justin Malarkey is now right up on the rear bumper of WL, and David is not going to defend at all. So that is as sure a sign as anything that David is just nursing his car, trying to bring it home with just 13 laps to go here.
Yeah, he's really struggling with the handling of that car. He can't get it down towards the bottom of the track where it's a shorter distance around. There in 1 and 2. 3 and 4, you can get it down there, but I think it's all because of that, how different the banking is at this racetrack.
Yeah, now all the cars around the track, just to get an update, are pretty well spread out as we approach the final 12 laps of this race. And so, just to recap, we have Chris Morrill, Justin Larkey, David Buell, Keith Fallon, Eric Thornton. That's your top 5. Then we have Buddy Sally, David Owens, Paul Ferdiani, Cody Dorsey, Kevin Kyle following them. And then finally, Gary Wright, Kyle Lynott, Nick Mills, George Jewell, Thomas Pierce, Phil Manzo, Rusty Pottenberg, David Medina, David Brenner, and Rob Chowdhury. That is your top 20 in this race right at the moment.
Yeah, I think now Justin Malarkey has a good amount of tires saved up. He's able to gain almost a half a second there on that last lap against Chris Morrill. Sitting at 2 seconds now, catching a little bit of lap traffic. It's going to slow him down just a bit.
The battle for P3, David Buell is hanging on, but he's just losing it now to Eric Thornton. Eric Thornton is now in 3rd spot. David Buell falls to 4th. And David is now under attack from Keith Fallon. Keith's tires don't look so great to me either, but maybe still a little bit better than David. David continues to struggle there. He's just looking very, very tight on entry, very loose on exit. But Keith has got him in his sights. And as they round and exit turn 2, Keith is on David's left rear, and in fact David is just going to lift and let Keith by as they enter turn 3. And so that causes David to fall to 5th position. Keith Fallon now in 4th.
I thought it was going to be a close battle with the 73 car. Thought he had maybe a really good tire advantage on the 5 car. To make the pass here on Chris Smorl, so I think as we're coming close to 8 to go, with Chris Smorl's just going to kind of try and run away with this, kind of save his tires, baby him, just to get him to the end.
Yeah, this has been one of the more dramatic exhibitions, Jared, of the importance of tire management. The end stage of this race has just really kind of shown who is able to kind of take care of the tires and really nurse them in the right way for the last 10 laps of this race.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Texas is one of those harder tracks to kind of get a grasp of tire-wise. A lot of drivers kind of don't really like coming to this track, don't like racing at this track just because of the way it's kind of configured. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where it takes a driver's skill level and really puts them to the test. Really shows who are the best drivers on this platform.
Well, as the race leader Chris Smorl rounds the back straight and goes into turns 3 and 4, as he crosses the start-finish line here, there will just be 5 laps remaining, and he's still maintaining roughly a 2-second lead over Justin Larkin P2. Chris is going to lose a little bit of time here as he tries to carefully get around the lapped car of Kyle Lynott. And does so successfully. That's going to reduce his lead down to 1.5 seconds. But of course, Justin will have some similar issues when he catches up to Kyle.
Yeah, it's usually easier for the car in second to kind of make their way through lap traffic. Usually the leader has a harder time because people don't want to get put a lap down, so they're going to race the leader a little bit harder than, let's say, the guy in second, because once they're passed by the leader, it doesn't really matter. They're already a lap down, so.
Right. Well, now I'm sure Chris would just love this race to end. As Justin is closing up now to 1.2 seconds. Of course, there is still Kyle Lynott in between him and Chris Smorl, the race leader.
Yeah, Justin's able to just gain a little bit of time, but it's not enough to get to the rear bumper of that 5 car.
Just to update, we're not really seeing on track any other close battles for position, and so we'll stay as we round here with 2 laps to go in the race as the race leader Chris Smorl crosses the start-finish line. We'll stay with these leaders just to see if Justin Larkey can pull out some miracle here as Justin goes around the bottom of turn 2 around Kyle Lynott, and now it is just Chris Smorl ahead of Justin Malarkey, 1.2 seconds ahead.
So, Peter, what do you think? Is he going to get it?
I'm with Jared. I think there aren't enough laps remaining. In fact, Chris will get the white flag here, and then that signifies the last lap of the race. And there's more than 1 second gap, and so I don't know. I think Chris has it in the bag, and Justin is really just going to have to settle for P2.
Yeah, Chris is gonna have to wreck for Justin to win this race, but I mean, it is possible in turn 4. He could hit that bump and lose the whole car entirely, and who knows, maybe even take Justin out with him. But it looks like he's smooth sailing. Chris Morrill winning at Texas.
What a fantastic race, Justin Larkey. Eric Thornton works his way all the way back up to finish on the podium in 3rd spot. Keith Fallon, newcomer, new Folcom teammate in the 934 car, finishes in 4th. Dave Buell hangs on to finish in the top 5. And then Buddy Sally, David Owens, Cody Dorsey, Paul Ferdiani, and Gary Wright. That is your top 10 for this race.
Awesome. Well, nice work, guys. I do have to say, I think half the time was a radio show. We'll have to look at what happened exactly. But congratulations to Chris as well. Again, a victory. You guys were talking about it, who could win this race, and yeah, of course, you always have to think of Chris Morrill. Nice victory of him. He's going to do the celebrations for sure up here.
Absolutely. And I do believe Jared won the prediction derby on the number of full course cautions. Am I right?
I believe it was you. I think there was 3, so that was all you, buddy. Well, almost any time I win, I'm told that Liam's always the winner, so I wouldn't party too hard.
Well, it's always such a fantastic thing. I especially think that these drivers just excel on these medium length ovals, on these 1.5 mile ovals, even on the difficult and somewhat strange ones like Texas Motor Speedway. And we definitely saw that today.
Yeah, it was a great showing from all the drivers. They were, for a while there, they were nose to tail almost all the way throughout the field, racing almost all the time. And it was just great seeing all the battles take place. And I was really hoping there was going to be a great battle there at the end, but I'm disappointed again. I don't get to see that battle, but maybe eventually I'll get to see a really good battle here up in the booth.
Well, we do have several drivers in the broadcast booth, and so it'll be just great to have a chat and see their perspectives and hear from them. Let's start with the number 46 car of Thomas Pierce. Thomas, you were running a really great race, and we were pulling for you, especially in that second fuel stint. We thought that maybe you even had a chance for a race win. Things didn't quite work out that way, but tell us a little bit about your race.
That's
too hard.
I don't think. Hey, Thomas, we can hear you now.
All right. So I had a lot of fun today. I think I set it a bit too hard after that first tire rotation, and I kind of used them up too fast and lost a bunch of position there. Then on that second tire rotation, I got the penalty for speeding in the pits. And that kind of put me back, I think, 2 laps behind. Still finished 15th. I'm really happy with my race, and it was really fun racing with y'all.
Yeah, well, you were definitely looking very, very racy out there, and you'll be able to watch the broadcast replay later if you spend some time with that, and you'll see that we were pulling for you, and so we're looking forward to more top 10 and top 5, maybe even race wins in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we also have our P7 finisher, David Owens, another driver who, we don't always see, up at the lead pack, but absolutely racing hard today in the number 11 car. David, congrats on the great, or number, I guess, there's a little confusion here about your car number, but David, congrats on a great race and a great finish in the top 10. Tell us a little bit about it.
Oh man, I appreciate it. Man, that was I had to fight for that one. The car was loose. Just that's what this track brings. With this, but yeah, I know I got into that wreck on lap 4 with Steve Hoffman and Medina. I apologize to Medina. I couldn't miss him. But luckily, I was able to battle back from that and really conserve tires and get up there and battle in the top 10 with everybody. It was great racing around everyone. So it was all in all a fun day of racing.
Well, it looked like you were both fast and smart there out on track. It was definitely just tons of fun to watch, and looked like a pretty busy time for the entire race for you.
It definitely was. At one point, I think I felt like a logger sawing on the wood in there, trying to keep it from going sideways.
Right. Well, let's move up now to our P5 finisher, but he was looking set up for the race win right up there with just 20 laps to go. David Buell. David, well, first off, congrats on the top 5 finish. You brought it home. It looked like you were really struggling there right at the end with your tires, but boy, it must be a little bit bittersweet, even though it's a great finish. But tell us a little bit about how it went for you.
Oh yeah, I had a fast short run car, which is unusual for me. Usually I can save tires, but I knew I couldn't beat Chris, so I decided to short pit him and then just go as hard as I could and hope I could stay out front. But my goal was to lead the most laps, which I did, and to lead a lap, which I did. So that was my goal going into it. I was just so horrible in turn 1.
Yeah, and when you kind of had that moment, I think with I think it was under 20 laps to go, there was a real chance that both you and Chris could have gotten taken out, and that would have been that would have really shaken up the lead of the race. But you held it together, which is really good on you. At that moment, what was your thought process? Were you still thinking about trying to get the race win, or did your calculus about what you could do in the race change at that moment?
No, I knew I was just hoping to get a top 5. When I almost took Chris out, I was like, oh crap, don't do that. And so I just decided to back off and let the guys pass me that were faster, and just settle in and get a top 5.
Right. Well, that's good on you, David, and I think you've always been a great representation for the kind of sportsmanship in the Bonfire Premier Cup and the Bonfire Racing League, and that shows right there, and you get rewarded with a top 5 finish, so congrats.
Thank you, guys.
Well, we spent a lot of time in the broadcast talking about our P4 finisher in the 934 car, Keith Fallon. Keith, congrats. Top 5 finish. You're a newcomer to the league. That must feel pretty good.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun. This track was wicked loose on exit, especially out of 1 or out of 2. But I had a blast. It's my first race with the league, so I really didn't know what to expect. But it was a lot of hard racing, a lot of fun racing. I really enjoyed it. I got a little bit of damage there at the start of the race, and I think that killed my short run speed a little bit. And then that turn 4 wall, I think, kept getting closer and closer, narrower and narrower, because I kept hitting it. So that didn't do me any favors. But I was just trying to be patient and keep the car under me and keep my tires from overheating. Me, David, and a few other people practice. That's one thing we found out. If you put a lot of heat in the tires, that's when the car starts getting really hard to drive. So I was just, taking my time, trying not to overheat my right front, and finished P4.
Yeah, well, that's a great finish, and I think Pim and Jared can tell you we were all really pulling for you. It would have been just a fantastic story if a newcomer to the league could win his first race. But if you keep this up, I'm sure race wins are coming.
Oh yeah, I gotta definitely thank my teammates, especially David Medina. Me and him did a lot of practice, and he helped me out a lot with my speed, especially on the long run. I guess we're heading to Dover next week, so I'm looking forward to that and seeing how these cars drive there.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, let's get to our P2 finisher in the 73 car, Justin Malarkey. Justin, that was a super eventful race for you, it looked like, and you ended up with a fantastic P2 finish. Tell us a little bit about how that race went for you.
Yeah, eventful for sure. I thought the car took off in the beginning of the race so well, and I thought this is going to be a really fun one. And I think around like lap 24, it just kind of took off loose on me, and I struggled. I think I dropped back to like 8th or 9th almost at one point.
And things really jumbled up for you, especially in those green flag pit stops. Do you have a sense of what happened there?
And on the first pit stops there at lap 35.
Yeah. Yep.
Honestly, no, I'm kind of forgetting that one. I think there was 2 cars that were speeding, so that kind of changed a little bit of positions. I switched my second run a lot. Make sure I try to keep the tires from getting burned up too much. I was so loose that first run. In the second run, I was able to kind of keep the car staying a little bit tight, but couldn't run Chris down there. There was definitely different guys on different strategies, which was really neat. That David was so fast on that one run. He took off.
Right.
That was incredible how fast he was on that run for those first 20 laps. That kind of scared me because I just couldn't do anything. I was hitting the seams a little bit there and getting the car a little upset.
Well, it definitely looked like if you had another 10 laps to go in the race, maybe you would have given Chris a little bit of pressure there. But P2 finish has got to feel pretty good and really solidifies your playoff spot. So congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, seconds are always good.
Yep. Well, let's get to our race winner, Chris Smorrell. Chris, congrats. That was a great run, a great race. And let's talk first off about how scared you were when David Buell got a little bit loose in front of you with just about 20 laps to go.
Yeah, that was the sucked a little bit of seat cushion up there, but it was all right. You completely, if you don't go into turn 2 expecting all the cars around you to get loose like that, or even as you're accelerating out, then you're doing it wrong. So this race, I'm more tired after this race than I've been in a long time, just because it felt like every single turn you had to be paying so much attention to what you were doing. There was no margin for error, and yeah, my shoulders are just killing me right now just from babying the car around. It really felt like you were driving it. But I mentioned, I think, in the pit interview there, or the yellow interview, David Medina, man, he sat me down this morning and walked me through all the things that he was thinking and what he was doing and how the car reacts. And I would just kind of blew my mind with some of the stuff that he was picking up on and how the car handles. So really appreciate that. And obviously I was able to put that to good use. Don't know that the result would have been the same had he not been involved in that early accident, but you know what? You got to take them where you can in this league. And same thing, there's penalties and all that sort of stuff, but that's the way it goes. So super happy with that.
Well, fantastic, and congrats. And you can really see the impact of teamwork. And this, of course, you're on the bubble for the round of 14 coming up, and so this definitely solidifies your standing there. So congrats. So just to wrap up, Chris, any other shout-outs or any other acknowledgments you'd like to give?
Yeah, of course, like always, my family let me do this, and my boys are starting to get interested in it too. It's really cool to see, and they support this silly little thing that we do here on Sunday mornings, and it means a lot to me, to the Focum guys. Like I said, not just David Medina, but all of them. Just the support and the learning and the sharing of, hey, have you thought about this or have you tried that, is great week in, week out. League admins, man, they do such a fantastic job. Sometimes it's a thankless job, but I just want to make sure they understand that we appreciate everything they do, making this a fun event to come every Sunday, something to look forward to. And I'm looking forward now to. It's really cool that we matched up the schedules with the real life schedules to now go and watch the actual race. It's kind of a neat day. But anyway, and thanks to you guys in the booth as always. I know y'all have different things going on in your own lives, so the fact that you take the time out of your day to brighten ours is huge, and I hope people realize that. So yeah, there you go. Have a great day, everybody.
Chris, we talk about it at the track when people have kids. They're gonna have to buy them cars in the future. So it sounds like you're gonna have to buy your kids sim rigs so that they can race here on Sunday morning. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm already saving up, man. I know maybe their 529s will get rerouted, but yeah, no, yeah, exactly, man. They're getting competitive, and yeah, hopefully sooner than later we'll see them out on the track. Right now they're kind of a menace to society, though, racing the AI cars, so it might be a little bit.
David Owens, any shout outs that you'd like to give?
Just shout out to everybody in this league, the admins, for everything that they do. You guys at the broadcast booth. Again, it's a place that everybody we all come here and have fun and race. It's competitive, but nobody takes it super serious, so there's no tempers flaring, at least over the radio. So kudos to everybody out there just making this just a fun all-around league and experience.
Fantastic. And we still have Thomas Pierce also in the booth. Thomas, any shout outs from you?
Yeah, shout outs to you guys for the broadcast. I know a lot of my friends enjoy watching me race on this Sunday morning. And shout out to the drivers making this really fun league and making this a race I always look forward to join every Sunday.
Fantastic. It's just always fun to watch you guys. Especially, I find you guys all are my favorites to watch, especially on these 1.5 mile ovals. And so you definitely delivered today. Well, anyway, Jared, Pim, back to you guys.
Yeah, it was a nice race to watch. If you could watch it, I do have to say I want to thank OBS for I think another leak, memory leak. We had a lot of issues, and I think it's great to have Jared and Peter in the booth. You guys can really manage that quite well. Had a nice radio conversation halfway through. We'll have some work to do to have a look at, but I'm looking forward. I'm glad we're back. Peter, just wanted to give a hard shout out for you and your family. Wish you all the best and hope that everything goes fine. Of course, tonight we have another broadcast going on. That's going to be the Sunday Night Skippy. See if we have another some broadcasters who are willing to spend their evening on that one. But I want to thank everybody.